Has the mystery midfielder linked finally been revealed? We're going to run through the latest there. An update on Yan Diomande's availability and talks of a possible swap deal involving Manuel Ugarte. All that and all of today's Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Welcome to Man United Review. Smash that like button. Let's get into it. So obviously, talk with the town over the last few days in terms of transfers, apart from the Manchester derby win. Just throwing it out there again for just for the crack, just because I'm still milking it. It has been around this secret midfielder that we've been holding talks with that was revealed from Ben Jacobs. Now, this isn't quite confirmed yet from Ben Jacobs because it's clearly Ben Jacobs' story to bring out, and I'm sure he's going to announce it, when he gets the approval or when the time's ready. He might be milking it himself, just like I'm milking the performance and result from the weekend as well. He might be doing exactly the same regarding this story. However, this has come from Alex Crook. Now, Alex Crook works very closely with Ben Jacobs, so it would stand to reason that they're maybe got the same sources or same connections, or, it's plausible that this might be the secret midfielder. So Alex Crook has said that Manchester United have been offered the chance to sign former Chelsea star Ruben Loftus-Cheek. United are considering signing a midfielder on loan to bolster their hopes of Champions League qualification. Talks are only exploratory at this stage, but Loftus-Cheek is keen to return to the Premier League, having struggled for game time at AC Milan this season. Now, I'm just going to pause there because that's a continuation, I think, of what Graham Bailey was saying the other day. I did bring you this in a previous video where Graham Bailey was effectively saying the same thing. The way I interpret that is that Ruben Loftus-Cheek is being offered to United, not necessarily United going to Ruben Loftus-Cheek to bring him in. So whether they'll see that as an opportunity, though, and go for Loftus-Cheek, I don't know. But I always get, it's like the Vlahovic situation in the summer. For those that subscribe and watch the videos, Vlahovic was being offered to United. We obviously didn't go for him. And I kind of feel this is the same with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, where he is being offered to Premier League clubs because he wants to return to the Premier League rather than vice versa, which I do think makes a difference. Going back to Alex Crook, though, he said that United have also discussed Wilfred Ndidi. The former Leicester midfielder is currently captain of Besiktas, but has aspirations to return to England one day for both football and family reasons. So is Wilfred Ndidi the secret midfielder? Again, Alex Crook works very closely alongside Ben Jacobs. The story, though, is Ben Jacobs to release. So while it's not directly coming from Ben Jacobs, I think that it's maybe plausible that could be, or they could be, the names that we are potentially had talks with, whether that was talks with Loftus-Cheek with his agent, because his agent is offering or trying to get him a move to the Premier League, and he's knocked on United or picked up United's phone and said, "Here, do you fancy my client?" And we've had talks that way. Or is it Wilfred Ndidi? Because we have had connections with him in the past as well. He is a player that we've been linked with a few times, specifically from Ben Jacobs as well. So while there's no official confirmation, I think it's plausible that maybe it could be one of those two. But again, we'll wait for the official. We'll wait for Ben Jacobs to release his story, because clearly he's got something on his mind or been told something from someone, and we'll just wait and see how it all plays out. But give us your thoughts, though. What are you thinking? Loftus-Cheek or Wilfred Ndidi? Who are you picking? Get involved in the comments. Let me know out between those two if they are the secret or mystery midfielder that we're linked with. Personally, I would pivot more towards Ndidi. I know he's got injury problems and everything like that, but I think we need more of a six. I don't see Loftus-Cheek as like a holder midfielder, like a screening midfielder that can sit in front of the back four and do Casemiro's job. I think we need somebody to do that job when Casemiro's out of form, or he's tired at the end of games, or as a rotation, or suspension, injury, anything of that nature. I think Ndidi would probably be my preferred out of the two. I mean, I'm talking here about picking really between getting poked in the eye and kicked between the legs, because neither of them really aspire me. I don't think they're signings that are going to get us to win the Premier League or anything like that, but they might do a job to help us get into a Champions League, which is ultimately the aim now for the rest of the season. Is can we get Champions League football? Because if we can, my God, it'll be massive for us in the summer. European football is the minimum that we expect, but there's an opportunity with the teams around us not really taking advantage like we haven't taken advantage as well. It's a really interesting league, isn't it? Everybody's dropping points to everybody, it seems, and anybody that can just find some consistency, I think, can get into that top four or five position. I think if we had an extra body that could help cover for Casemiro, I think that would be advantageous to us. And if it comes down to it, if none of our targets are available and we don't want to spend any money and it is a short-term loan, personally, I would probably pivot more towards Ndidi than Loftus-Cheek, because that would just be my interpretation of what I think we need. But some of you might be different. Get involved in the comments. Let me know who you're picking out of those. Just out of those two. Don't cheat and put in Elliot Anderson or Carlos Baleba. That's not the game. The game is out of those two who you're picking. Now, there's been another midfielder linked to add to the ever-growing list of midfielders that have been linked with us as well. Who would have thought that United are looking for midfielders? That must be up to about 40 odd now. Midfield names that we've been linked with since the summer, but interesting profile. So this is coming from, so I saw it in the Manchester Evening News saying that Manchester United are interested in signing Marc Casado and have made an inquiry to see if the Barcelona midfielder is available. According to Spanish outlet Mundo Deportivo, not the most credible, but decent. Casado has struggled for regular game time at Barcelona, starting just 10 La Liga matches this season. There is mounting speculation that he could therefore leave in pursuit of more minutes. It's claimed that Casado has been reluctant to even consider offers to move from Barcelona due to the fact his lifelong dream is to be a first-team star at Camp Nou, but Atletico Madrid have identified Casado as potential replacement for Conor Gallagher. And while United are keen on a move, the 22-year-old is thought to be contemplating his future at Barcelona and might be open to an exit. United are said to have made an initial approach for Casado, having closely monitored him for some time. So there's an interesting profile of player. I think he would tick the box of personally what I would be looking for as well, like a holding midfielder, a number 6 that can sit in front of the back four, do the dirty work defensively, and he's very press resistant and very good on the ball as well. He's not a, ball carrying midfielder that maybe would have been more interested in under Ruben Amorim and his system, but getting somebody that can do Casemiro's job, sit in front of the back four, win tackles, get hold of the ball and pass it to the forwards with ease and is press resistant. Not a bad profile of player, to be fair. But I'd want to see a little bit more credibility than when that particular story is coming from, because Mundo Deportivo, hit and miss. I've not seen anything. I've been waiting for a while to see if there has been any more connections. If anything, the only other connection I could find was with Indy Kalia, suggesting that we're looking at him as well, which actually leads me to be a little bit more skeptical than what I was originally regarding that story. But decent profile, looks a decent option. Young, ticks the box of maybe what we're looking for. We're obviously in talks at the moment with Barcelona regarding Marcus Rashford. So I'm thinking, can we do something there where if he is a player that we're genuinely interested in and the story is to be believed and we've had talks and, all of this stuff, can we not do some sort of deal where we buy him that gives Barcelona the money to buy Rashford and it effectively becomes a swap deal without it being a swap deal, because I know swap deals don't happen and so on and so forth. But could we do potentially something like that if we're in negotiations with Barcelona anyway? Could that help them out and help us out, where we, helps us get rid of Rashford and his wages off the books and we get a decent young midfielder to bring in? Who knows? Well, it's an interesting one. Give us your thoughts and feelings on that, though, in the comments down below, as I'm sure you're going to. Now, let's stick with the midfield, because this was an interesting, another interesting report as well. Now, it's coming from Gimme Sports, saying that United are exploring the possibility of a swap deal involving Manuel Ugarte and Sunderland midfielder Noah Siddiqui, according to Gimme Sport. Siddiqui has impressed in the Premier League since joining the Black Cats from Belgian side Union Saint Galios in the summer. The report says the talk inside Old Trafford suggests that Ugarte could be used as a potential swap to tempt Sunderland into selling the 20-year-old. Now, this isn't something that's going to be done in January. This is more likely to be something to explore maybe in the summer. The Sun, though, have come out doing a report saying that Sunderland have dismissed any talk about selling Siddiqui even in the summer as well, because they've just signed him. They're going to be in no rush to necessarily weaken their squad after having done, after having a really good start to, their first season in the Premier League. I think they've been outstanding so far. I've got a lot of friends and family. I live in the North East, so a lot of my friends and families are all Sunderland supporters and season ticket holders and stuff. They say Siddiqui's actually a really good player. He is seen by United, though, as a cheaper alternative to Carlos Baleba. So that's it. It's an interesting profile. We are obviously Premier League proven, young, ticks all of the boxes of what we would be looking for. So I like Siddiqui actually as a player. Swap deals don't happen. I just mentioned that in the report earlier when talking about, Rashford and Casado. But, we'll see. Interesting option, or an interesting story anyway to gather to you. want to see a little bit more credibility. They'll read the report and Give Me Sport, and it's Give Me Sport have got like decent journalists, not so decent journalists writing for them. It's come from their mid journalist, I'll say. So I'd want to see a bit more credibility regarding that. But that would be, I would definitely do that. If you said, would you, swap Ugarte for Siddiqui? Yes, I would. I think I would do that. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that one in the comments below. Sticking with Ugarte, though, the Athletic have come out saying that Ajax made an inquiry over Manuel Ugarte, but at this stage a deal is considered unlikely. The Dutch Giants want a new number 6 and have the Uruguay international on their list. They have been looking looking at a loan with no long-term discussions or decisions expected this month due to Jordi Cruyff only starting his sporting director role on February the 1st, but United have so far declined Ajax's proposals. So the Athletic are confirming the stories that I brought to you the other day regarding Ajax's potential interest in Ugarte, but the reports were saying that Ugarte didn't want to go, didn't fancy going to Ajax. And again, I can't see us weakening in a position where we're weak anyway in January. Like the only deals I can see realistically happening is a potential loan offer for a midfielder, someone like, as mentioned earlier, Loftus-Cheek, Ndidi was the other one as well. Someone like that, short-term stopgap to bring in, and the only exit I could see potentially going on is Xerxes, although that feels less likely at the time of recording this video as well. They seem to be the only ones because the main narrative doing the rounds is that we're just not going to do anything in January. We're going to wait until the summer to do a majority of our business. That also came out in the Athletic as well, where they said while there are no major transfer discussions planned for next week, work continues in the background on young players at the club who need spells out on loan that suit their development. So the Athletic saying there are no major transfer discussions planned for this week. When asked in the report, though, it says how much input will Carrick have on the transfer plans. I found this interesting, saying that United are not planning to make moves in this window, so there won't be much need for him to have a say on immediate business. It goes on to say the relationship will be similar to the one Amram had with Wilcox and the rest of the board, in that they will discuss transfers together and work on targets. Yet, as Amram found out in the previous window when he wanted Aston Villa striker Ollie Watkins, there will be other names the club feel are better suited to the long-term plans, as it was with the eventual summer signing of striker Benjamin Sesko. So the way the transfers are working is they're still not going to sign players that the manager doesn't want, because that's just stupidity. You can't force a player on a manager, but they'll have a list of targets. And if the club want to go for target A, then they'll go for target A, even if the manager wants target B. But the manager will be happy with either A or B. That's the way I perceive the transfers going, because like I said, you're just shooting yourself in the foot signing a player that a manager wouldn't want to play. It's a waste of money and it's a waste of time, and it just creates friction that doesn't need to be created. However, the club are always going to prioritise who they see as the long-term future at the club ahead of what the manager necessarily says. Whether that's right or wrong, only time will tell on that, because we've been down the route of buying players for managers and it hasn't exactly worked out very well for us. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the long-term vision works out for the best. Like, i.e., was it better in a couple of years? Was it better to get Sesko than it would have been to get Ollie Watkins and then look for another striker? Only time will tell regarding that. But the Athletic main takeaway from that is that they're effectively saying that there's not going to be much, not many transfer business plan. Like I said, the only thing I could potentially see is maybe a short-term loan for someone like Wilfred Ndidi on loan, and possibly Xerxes, although like I said, those reports have gone a little bit quiet. But maybe we'll know a little bit more now that AFCON's finished. Just on AFCON as well, it's coming out from the Manchester Evening News saying that Mazraoui has been given some extra time off and was likely going to be back in training at the end of the week, maybe available for the squad against the Arsenal game. But if he doesn't train this week, I think it would be maybe a push to have him in the team, which is a bit of a worry, especially with Diego Dallo, because I think Mazraoui coming in front of Dallo improves the squad, because I think Mazraoui is a better player than Diego Dallo, but it might be a bit too soon for the Arsenal game. But we'll wait and see, and we'll know more maybe with Michael Carrick's press conference at the end of the week, ahead of the big game at the weekend. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. Now, just on Just on the manager talk, there's been a few updates regarding that. So this is a report come out from Sky Sports Germany saying that Borussia Dortmund coach Niko Kovac is on United's shortlist. The connection is strong, partly due to the presence of Christopher Vivel. They have inquired about Kovac's situation with the Premier League, a desired destination for him. However, Alex Crook has said, was speaking regarding Luis Enrique and Julian Nagelsmann, saying that I know there's fresh talk with Luis Enrique and Julian Nagelsmann, but I've said a couple of times, I think they prefer someone with Premier League experience already. So on the manager situation, they've obviously brought you the updates regarding Enrique and Nagelsmann recently. Niko Kovac has been linked by Sky Sports Germany. However, Alex Crook is saying that we want someone with Premier League experience. And I do think that that's probably plausible. I do think that maybe we are looking at somebody that's got Premier League experience ahead of going down that route of non-Premier League experience. I would like to see an exception to the rule, though, for somebody like Enrique, but we'll pay attention to that one and keep an eye on it for you. And then the final story I want to go through is regarding Yan Diomande, a name that's come out of the woodwork for the January transfer window. The main reports on it, though, is that this wouldn't be a January move. Fabrizio Romano has come out saying that on Yan Diomande, RB Leipzig insists they want to keep Diomande, despite Manchester United sending their scouts again to follow him, despite Tottenham being ready to do business now with an important financial proposal. The intention of Yan Diomande is to understand the situation on the market. RB Leipzig want to keep him in January. They'll insist he'll not leave this window. They made important money in the summer, so they're not looking for anyone. Obviously, they sold Sesko and Xavi Simons and a few others as well, so they're not in financial desperation to sell any players in the January transfer window. Fabrizio Romano goes on to say it's going to be a crazy battle in the summer. United and Tottenham are sending their scouts. PSG are also following Diomande closely. So this is a name potentially to keep an eye on for the summer, Yan Diomande. If Romano is confirming that we are scouting, that's not the first time that we've been linked with Yan Diomande, not the first time Romano's linked us with Yan Diomande as well. I am a little bit put off by the fact he came out the other day and said that he wants to play at Anfield and is a bit of a Liverpool fan, but you know, beggars can't be choosers, and if Liverpool are not in for him, then he's got no choice, has he, to pick clubs. But it's going to be very difficult to do. There are some other reports that I've read regarding Yan Diomande suggesting that even if they get a massive offer in the summer, they still might not sell him because they're not in a financially like that sort of financial position anymore with the sales that they made in the summer, where they don't necessarily need to sell their players to help them out financially. So even if we went in with a massive offer, they still might refuse and just prefer to keep the player because they are that sort of club, RB Leipzig, where they won't, if they want to keep a player, they're just going to keep them. But an interesting profile does show that I think this is definitely one to pay attention to in the summer, especially now we're changing formation and potentially, I do think we would need another winger, and it's exactly the sort of profile I've been saying all season that we're potentially missing is that young, up and coming, that young raw player, just frighten the life out of defenders with pace and skill and everything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Yan Diomande in the summer. I'd definitely pay attention to that one. The Athletics, David Ornstein in the Athletics said a similar thing as well, that RB Leipzig winger Yan Diomande has attracted interest from Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspurs, among other clubs in Europe, as reported by the Athletic. However, his asking price would be 100 million euros or more, and the Red Bulls empire managing director is adamant the 19-year-old Ivorian will remain in Germany. So this is definitely one to pay attention to. I would put him on the list of potential targets alongside Anderson, Baleba, Wharton. I think Yan Diomande, if David Ornstein, the Athletics, linking us with him, Romano's linked us a few times. We're clearly scouting him, clearly interested in him as well. So that's potentially one to keep an eye on for the summer to see whether we do move for him. And again, are we going to have the money for that with the midfield rebuild as well? Who knows? We'll pay attention to it, and I'll bring you any updates if and when they go out. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. And the final update I want to go through with you is regarding João Gomez. Obviously, a lot of talk recently regarding potentially United moving for him. Again, this is coming from Alex Crook saying that João Gomez is not currently considered a genuine target for United, with both clubs downplaying any rumours. Wolves might consider selling him in the summer instead. If United make any moves in January, they are likely to focus on midfield, probably via a loan deal rather than a permanent transfer. And obviously, Alex Crooks brought us the potential loan options in Loftus-Cheek and Ndidi. The club is planning a major summer overhaul with a shortlist including Baleba, Wharton, and Elliot Anderson, and there's a possibility they could sign more than one of these players. Now, that would be interesting. Again, depends on the finances, doesn't it? Whether we would go for, two of Baleba, Wharton, and Anderson. That would be the dream, wouldn't it, to get two of those three potential names. But I think I would put João Gomez potentially as one of the cheaper alternatives if you can't get all of your deals done. And I still think this is one where, maybe we are waiting until the summer. And if João Gomez is a target, you could get him a lot cheaper if and when Wolves are relegated then in January. But it might be one that we pay attention to, that if another club come in, i.e. Napoli and Atletico Madrid are the other two teams linked with João Gomez, maybe that forces our hands. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays out, because Wolves might just keep him. They might just keep him. So it's an interesting one. Pay attention to it for you, and I'll bring you any updates if and when they come out regarding that. But let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think regarding all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest transfer news and news. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.